Okay, so also the goal of this course, the goal of this training or this program is to impact the SAP Business Analyst knowledge to every student that is attending this program. And the skill obtained here can also be leveraged in a typical business analyst role. So now let's clarify this understanding properly. We're here to do SAP Business Analyst training. The SAP is an application on its own. I'm sorry for that. All right, I'm sorry. Like I was saying, so this course basically we are talking about SAP Business Analyst. So SAP on its own is an application that is used in an enterprise resource environment. So I want us to understand that we also have roles in the IT industry as a business analyst. So this training also is going to be talking about the functionality of a business analyst, which means that at the end of this class, you can go out there also and look for jobs that are for business analysts that meet your skill set and your understanding of knowledge that you have getting from this class. So that is one thing I just want to point out. And also an other ERP system in the IT industry. SAP is an ERP system, but SAP is not the only ERP system that is out there. So there are three things or three knowledge that you're going to be getting out of here. You are getting an SAP knowledge, you are getting a business analyst knowledge, and also you are getting an ERP knowledge on how an ERP system can help an organization to function properly. So with this skill set, you'll be able to work in this environment. So take note of that. Okay. Now let's talk about the agenda. This SAP Business Analyst training course, everyone will be introduced to working with the business. So please hold on. The person that just joined, can you mute yourself, please? Okay. So this SAP Business Analyst training or course will introduce you to the following thing: working with the business to identify opportunities for improvement in the business operations and process in SAP SD, MM, and FI. SD is an abbreviation for sales and distribution. MM means material management, and FI means finance. So that when you get to the job market, when you are seeing these abbreviation, at least you can have an understanding of what they mean. So you will be introduced into the process of working with the business, of working with the business to identify opportunities for improvement in the business operations and process in the SAP SD, MM, and FI environment. Number two, to design or modification of the SAP system or business system or IT system. When we talk about business system and IT system, now we are talking about non-SAP systems. When you get to the uh, workforce, you are going to be introduced to other applications that either run in parallel with SAP system or that has nothing to do with SAP. So even as a business analyst, when you get out there, even if you are looking for a job as a business analyst or an ERP business analyst that is not SAP based, but you will be able to use the concept and the knowledge that you gain from this training to be able to help those organizations or within your team to design and perform modification to these systems. Number three, we are going to introduce you into how you interact with the business stakeholders. You're going to have an understanding of who stakeholders are and subject matter expert. you are going to become a subject matter expert to be able to help the business, which means the business are going to look up to you for knowledge and for solutions within the SAP practices in order to understand their problems and needs. So one of the major role of business analyst is to understand what the problem is and what solutions are needed to solve those problems. And those are the things that you're going to be introduced to in this training. Number 4, we're going to talk about how you'll be able to gather requirements, document those requirements, analyze those requirements for the business needs in the SAP SD, MM, and FI environment. One thing I just want to also emphasize on this item 4 is this. Like I said, we are using SAP as our forefront applications. So when I mention SAP SD, material management and finance environment, also take it that if you are working for a non or you are working in an organization that is using a non-SAP ERP system, but they are using another ERP system, the concept and the knowledge that is impacted in this program, you can also leverage those knowledge to be able to gather requirements, to be able to document requirement and analyze the requirement for the business needs. So these key things are very, very important. Number 5, you will be introduced to at least, you cannot teach anybody how to think, but at least we'll be able to impact the knowledge of how to solve business problems as needed. Design functional solutions to developers within the SAP or the ERP spectrum. When we talk about developers, developers are the people that write the code. But you are not going to write any code, and we're not going to talk about any code or process here. But your ability to be able to work with the developers by writing functional specifications, these are the things that you will be introduced to in this training. Number 6, interaction. After this training or when you get your first job, you get into a project, you are going to meet a lot of people. And the kind of people that you're going to meet are going to be consultants, developers, business analysts like yourself, and other functional roles within the IT environment. But you will be introduced into the interaction with what SAP consultant, which means you'll be able to work with SAP consultant and developers to ensure the system is properly implemented in a project. And lastly, we are going to introduce you to the process of how you can help to perform system testing, create system documentation, user documentations, and system training documents. So we are going to be talking about document creation here. In the later part of this class, all of these things, every individual on this training program will be introduced into it. So what I want to say here is that for every assignment we give out, please go back and do those assignments. Every class will be recorded. Go back, watch the recording. It might be tedious, but we always encourage the students to go back, watch this during the week so that you can understand and assimilate these informations. Let's talk about the SAP Business Analyst or Business Analyst role. If you understand these 5 concepts of a business analyst, if you are taking note or you want to take a screenshot, it all depends on you. This is the major business analyst roles or concept within the IT environment. Now, this is different from the circle of a business analyst, which we are going to talk about. But this is the roles for you to understand your roles within a project. Number one is to understand what the business does and how it works. Two things is involved in the step one: understanding what the business does and how it works. And that is what we're going to introduce you to in this training. That's why we're going to be dealing with the theoretical part of it. And we're also going to be dealing with the system part of it, which is the practical. We're going to introduce you to how the business works in the corporate environment. And we're also going to introduce you to how does those process, how do they work within the SAP environment. Number two, determine how to improve existing business process. There are three environments in the SAP or in an ERP environment or as a business analyst that you can find yourself. Number one environment is going to be either in a project, which we normally call implementation, or you will find yourself in an enhancement project. We call it enhancement, which means they are either enhancing the SAP system, or you will find yourself in a support project, which means the system has already been implemented, but they are just bringing you in to support the SAP system. This means the step two, you will need to know how to determine how to improve existing business process. So from the business process that we are going to be talking about in the course of this training, at least you'll be able to have a clear understanding of business processes. Do a research on business processes. And when you get to an environment where you are needed or your skill is needed to be able to work on any business process or improve any business process, at least you will be able to use the resources you've learned from this training and outside this training to be able to work with the business. Number three, business analyst role also involve you will need to determine which tasks, steps to automate and get requirement. The step three is a little bit deeper, but as we go through this class, you'll be able to understand how it works. Being able to identify tasks, steps, and if automation or steps that have been automated, all of these are part of the business analyst role once you get into the workforce. Number four, design. Design the future of the IT system. When we talk about designing the future of the IT system, we are not talking about you alone as a business analyst. You are just going to get into an organization and you are just going to build the entire system. No. This is going to be you coming in as an SAP business analyst and be able to work with a team to help them work within a project. Within a project, there might be design that is required to be able to implement. So you'll be able, your role will be able to design the future of an IT system, which means in the SAP environment, we call it gap analysis. You being able to see the gap. The gap is the future state, what the business is not currently doing. One of your functionalities is going to be you being able to work with a team to design the future of the IT system by creating what functional specifications and working with the developers. So this is another thing we're going to discuss in this training as part of your business analyst role or as an SAP business analyst. And lastly, we're also going to talk about what implement the new features of the IT system. Still the same thing. The last part of this, as an SAP Business Analyst role, technical design. This is optional. Majority of us here, or majority of these individuals here, let me put it that way, we are not technical. But also in this training, we are going to go at least a little bit above to be able to introduce you guys to some technical part so that you have at least an understanding in case you find yourself in an environment like that. So, just to recap, these 5 steps are the roles within a team in an implementation that you can find yourself in, the roles that you can play. So you will need to be able to get yourself ready. And our goal in this training is to get you ready in these different 5 roles as a business analyst. Now, we've talked about the roles of a business analyst in a team when you are working in the IT environment. Now, let's talk about SAP Business Analyst overview. This is the overview roles diagram of an SAP Business Analyst. In total, the SAP BA training in sales and distribution module with its integration with material management and finance will be centered around these SAP BA roles using the 12 steps detailed in this diagram. If you are taking a note, begin to understand that in the SAP world, as a business analyst, your role will be involved in these 12 steps. These 12 steps are SAP Business Analyst role, starting from the top, which is the planning. So we are taking the top here, which is the planning. The planning is the number 1 step. An average business analyst is always involved in a planning stage of any enterprise or project solution in an IT industry. And this is not different from SAP BA role itself. It's the same thing. So planning is part of your role as an SAP business analyst. Of course, we are going to do some project in this class, and we are going to see our involvement during the planning stage. The number 2, the as-it to be scenario. When we say as is for every project that an IT industry or for every project in an SAP environment, there will always be an as is. And as is the current stage of that implementation or of that project. Let's take, for example, you want to build a house. If you are building a house, there has to be a planning on how to build the house. So once the planning is done on how to build the house, the next stage is going to be as is. Now, in a project of, let's say, building a house, what will be an as is? An as is going to be the land we are building on. Does this land has a structure already? Or are we building a store on this land? So take, for example, the house already has a house. So maybe the owner is trying to build a store in front of the house. So that means the assist is that there's already a house on this land. Another scenario of an assist can be you are building a website. If you want to build a website, your website has to go through planning. How you want your website to be. You have your business. Now, when you have your business, that is, you plan it. By the time you implement the website, now the assist is either does this business has a website already? Now, the website, if the business already have a website, maybe what they want to add to the website is maybe for people to be able to place an order or for people to be able to chat with the customer service. But the assist there is that this website is already existing. So when we bring it to the SAP world in the assist is that what is existing already? That is the assist. How does this business runs? What is the process or the process that is already on ground on how this business run or how this SAP application works? That is the assist scenario. So during the planning stage, all of the assist scenarios will be gathered, which means the way the business or the application is already working. So this will be discussed during the what? The planning stage. So your role as a business analyst, you will be involved in that planning stage during an assist, and you need to have an understanding of how the system is currently being run. The number three role of a business analyst is gap analysis. The gap analysis is the gap. If you remember in the previous slide, we talked about the futuristic state of the IT infrastructure, and I mentioned the word gap. Future is the gap, or another word is what is this project all about? So the gap there is what the system cannot do at this time, and they are trying to achieve that. So in a project, you will find yourself during the planning stage, you will find yourself also being able to contribute to the gap of the system. So we need to understand the gap analysis. And one of the, at the later part of this class, when we go through our project, we will also talk about gap analysis. When we look at project, we'll look at the gaps that is in our project. Okay. I'm sorry. Please just excuse me 1 minute. So let's talk about the fourth role. As an SAP business analyst, your role will also be involved what we call requirement gathering. Requirement gathering. In the requirement gathering, you will need to be able to gather requirement. If you don't understand the business, how can you gather the requirement for the business? So one of the things in this class also is we are going to look into the business. How does the business operate? When you understand the way the business operates, that is the only way you'll be able to gather requirement with the informations that you have. So in the business analyst role, you definitely work on requirement gathering. And the way all of this is structured, this is the steps that are taken in every project that you will find yourself. After the planning stage, the assist of the SAP system is discussed in the planning stage. The gap analysis is discussed in the planning stage. Once all these two things are already discussed in the planning stage, documented by the project manager, now the team will be involved in it. When I mean the team, you as a business analyst, some consultant from SD, consultant from consultant from FI. It all depends on what the project is all about. Even external consultant. Everybody will discuss the assist and gap analysis of the project in the planning stage. Once everything is documented, then your role also as a business analyst, it will come to where you have to do what? Requirement gathering. It might be on a topic, it might be on a functionality. Then you will have to be able to go forward and gather those requirements. And most of the time, this is where the stakeholders is going to come in. This is where you're going to have a relationship with the stakeholders. This is where you will be able to meet with the stakeholders to be able to gather requirement from them, asking them questions and documenting those questions. And we are going to look at these things, how they play when we get to the time of the project. But you cannot gather a requirement if you are not knowledgeable about what you are gathering. In a project, the sixth or the fifth step is going to be multiple solutions. Multiple solutions. Now, part of the business analyst role is to provide multiple solutions. You've gone to gather your requirement. In a requirement for just to implement a project, there might be multiple solutions. All of these solutions will be tendered in the meetings because you will have, sometimes you have weekly meetings, monthly meetings. All of this will be tendered and everybody will talk about the solutions they have. The consultant that are driving the process, they will mostly be the one to drive the multiple solution discussion. But you can be involved as a business analyst. And also one thing to point out here is that as you get into the workforce, the more experience you gain, the more responsibility will be entrusted in you and the more decision making you will be involved in. So the fifth step is after requirement gathering, a multiple solution can be presented and sometimes they will even lean on your own knowledge as the subject matter expert to be able to provide some solutions. The sixth step in a project is to then define the scope using the optimum solutions. Multiple solutions have been presented in an SAP project. Once these multiple solutions have been presented in an SAP project, part of the role of a business analyst will also work with the project managers to define the scope using optimal solution. Now, once the optimal solution is defined from the what? From the multiple solutions. From the multiple solutions. So one of the solution will be picked, and that is what the business or the team will go with. So once the project, once we define the scope of using the optimal solution, then we move forward with what? Getting the sign off from the stakeholders. Remember here, you were involved in gathering requirement from the stakeholders. Once that multiple solution are here, one inside the multiple solutions has been clearly defined, then we need to get a sign off from the stakeholders to implement or to work on that project. Now, when we're talking about project here, I want us to understand clearly, like I said, you can find yourself in an implementation, a brand new implementation project. You can find yourself in an ongoing project. You can find yourself in an enhancement project. And you can even find yourself in a normal life project. When I mean life support role project. So in all of these phases, there are going to be what we call the stakeholders. So once the stakeholders sign off on that project, and Once the sign off is done, then we're talking about what? The software preparation. The software what? Document preparation comes in. The software document preparation, this is also where
Excuse me,
an
please.
go ahead.
Please, what do you mean by sign off from the stakeholders?
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to repeat that. So what do I mean by sign off from the stakeholders is this. During the requirement gathering, the multiple solution, once it is defined, all of these days during the planning, there's always what we call the planning document. So they have a document, sorry, there is a planning document that is also prepared by the project manager. The project manager or whoever, or whether the product manager, whoever is driving that project as the manager, all of this, during all of these phases, I'm sorry, switching on me. Okay. During all of these phases, all of this process, there are several meetings that are involved. A project manager, or sometimes where you will hear the word Scrum Master. If a Scrum Master is also available in that project, these you will have sometimes you will have weekly meetings or meetings every 2 weeks. Maybe the Scrum Master will use a Scrum timeline. Maybe it was the Scrum timeline is going to be weekly. So on that weekly, there is going to be a weekly meeting. So on that weekly meeting, the team will always meet. So when I talk about the team can be comprises of the project manager, the scrum manager, the lead, consultant from different modules that will involve in that project, you as a business analyst or even multiple business analysts, and the stakeholders. The stakeholders are the ones that runs the business. They are the one that knows the business. They are not IT guys. They are not, they use the system. They are the one that runs the business. They know the business. So they are the one that are going to be the go-to people for the information. And also they are the one that is actually requesting for either that functionality that became a project. They are the one requesting for it. And they are the one that knows the business in details, but they are not IT guys. They are not, they are just going to be there during the meeting, giving you guys the input because you guys are the IT guys, you are the SAP guys. Now, once all of this process, meeting by meeting, this process that I just mentioned here could take months, maybe 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. It all depends on how big the project is. Once all of these phases, steps are already done, now the document that is prepared here during the project planning phase, that the manager, there will be a meeting, there will be a meeting that will be held on this very day or this very timeline of signing off. This signing off means this is where the stakeholder will review, they will review everything that has been captured if it meets the requirement of that project. Once that is done and they say, okay, yes, everything, all the information you have is accurate and this is what we need, that is the sign off there. So they will sign that project off and say, okay, we are good to start. Do you understand now?
Mr. Brian, can I
Yes.
come? Do you mind if I come in a little bit?
Yes.
Okay. So, guys, do you guys understand what an ERP is? Everybody on the call, just
No.
answer no, yes, no, yes, no, yes. Do you guys understand what an ERP is?
Most of them I don't understand, which is still part of this slide. We are still going
So,
to get to that slide. But
right, okay. So, because the reason I really wanted to quickly get in is because of that question about signing up. Um, because I think we already gone into the B role and their job requirements and specifications. So I think really going into the EROP with planning EROP itself before how SAP now sits on an EROP, right? So EROP itself, right? an enterprise resource planning is a business process management software. So on top of the ERP, that's where SAP comes in, right? Um, every company, every Fortune 500 company, Google, Amazon, Apple, they all uses ERP, right? So the stakeholder now comes together and say, what ERP system are we now going to use to manage our business? And that is where SAP comes in, right? So during the process of them making that decision, they have different ERP systems. We have SAP, we have Worksoft, we have PeopleSoft, we have Oracle, we have different systems that is ERP, right? So when they now make a decision and say we want to use SAP, the whole business leaders say, okay, this is the contract for SAP, and they sign off on it. So, James, to your question, signing off has to do with stakeholders coming together to make a decision on a specific design or a specific process. Everybody signing off on it, and it's a form of like an agreement that everybody says, okay, this is what we are going with. It might be a project agreement, it might be a contract agreement, it might be a functional agreement, it might be a development agreement. But signing up on something is like, oh, we all agree. Like, oh, today is Saturday. Um, we're gonna have this class for 4 hours. Do we all agree? Is that time comfortable for you? Yes, everybody agrees, and that is why we're here, right? So ERP itself, SAP sits on top of ERP, which is a part of the business process.
All right.
Right?
Thank you
So,
very
because,
much.
yeah, because a lot of people are really like trying to understand what's ERP, how is SAP part of it, how is the
Yes.
business analyst now being part of ERP and SAP. So ERP on itself is an over like it's everything. It's like when it comes to business organization, ERP is an enterprise. So any enterprise that manages day-to-day business process uses an ERP, and then they make a decision on the system they want to use. That's where SAP comes in.
All right. Thank you very
Does that
much
answer your
for that
question?
clarity. So,
Yeah.
Mr. James, in a nutshell, like what Mr. Kevin said, it's just that if the project might be they are getting a new ERP system, it might be that they've already been using an ERP system already. It might be a project, it might be functional, it might be technical project, but like he said, signing off just means that when everybody comes and say we agree on and we are going forward with this thing. So everybody has to be on the same page. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so now that we've dealt with that signing off, now let's understand one thing is we've given a several example of the signing off. It might be an ERP system they are getting, it might be a project, but I want us to have it at the back of our mind that we are talking about SAP Business Analyst role. And we're talking about SAP Business Analyst, we're talking about your role in an SAP project. So even if a company they are buying an ERP system, so like example that Mr. Kevin gave, they are giving an ERP system, they are buying an ERP system. Is just an example. The fact remains that it's a business analyst role. You might even be given a role. Maybe you are working for a company that at the end of the day, you don't, as in they are not even using SAP. They might tell you go and do the research and bring presentations for us on different ERP or work with a group of people. It might be. It might be that they've already been using an SAP system and this is a project. But I want us to understand that the focus of this is the SAP business analyst role or a business analyst role. So we are mainly focusing on your role in a project. Okay.
Correct.
Now, when we go to the software document preparations, after the sign off is done, on on the project and they say everybody's on the good to go page and say we are ready to go, let's go. Then the documentation begins, which is what they call the software documentation preparation. In this slide, if we look at this slide right here, in the fourth, and these are the software documentation aspect, we have the functional and we have the technical. Now, it all depends on what the project is all about. It all depends on what the project is all about. If the project requires a technical documentation, that document will be prepared. If it is a functional specification, that functional specification document will be prepared. So in this stage here, as a business analyst, we, or let me put it, you guys, or the focus of this class is not going to be more technical. We are going to be more of functional documentation or functional specification preparation. This is where all the requirement has been gathered, the project has been planned, everybody has signed off, and we say, okay, we are good to go. Then we now say, okay, how does this work in SAP? Now, in this project, which is the plan, the stakeholder have signed off. Now, we then need to translate this requirement for this project. We then need to then translate it into what? An SAP language. We then need to translate it to what? An SAP language. Translating it into SAP language is the document preparation, which means if I say, I want you to build a function in this SAP system, the people that is going to build that function or write the code that is going to build that function is the developers, the SAP developers. Now, the SAP developers, they do not understand, let's just put it that they don't understand English. And they want you to make them understand the English in the SAP environment, which means you got to tell them what they need to do in an SAP language. And for you to be able to tell them what to do, that is where the document comes in. So the document, if it's going to be a functional documentation, you have to prepare it and send to those developers. The developers will look at the functional document, understand it, and they will start working on what the purpose of that document is. If they have any question, they will come back to you as a business analyst to explain or to tell them what next to do. That is the way it works. So the system documentation here, one thing I want us to get out of it is you have two types. For now, you have two
I wanted
types
to
of
ask a
system
question.
document. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, you said what?
I said sorry to call you. When you're talking about the software document preparation, are you saying that the software to be used it should be SAP?
No,
That's what I'm saying. Okay, that's what I want to find out.
no. You are not saying the document, the software to be used is SAP.
Okay.
This is, please, that's the reason why I said, let us understand something. The example, can you mute yourself, please?
Okay.
The example that Mr. Kevin gave, he gave an example of, let's say the company wants to buy an ERP system. It's just an example. With his own example, when we talk about the software document in his own example now, yes, this might be not even because the documentation here that we're talking about is the actual software, how to implement the project in the software, which means that we are using SAP. And our project in that SAP is to tell SAP, say, okay, If someone place an order, take that order and send it to another company. But right now, our SAP system cannot take an order and send it to another company. So we make that a project to be able to make SAP take an order. When I mean an order, a sales order, and send it to another company. Then we'll make it a project. We've gathered the requirement of what we need in that business process. The stakeholder have signed off that, okay, I think everything is good. We take order from our customer and we take that sales order, we send it to customer XYZ. Simple as that. Now they've said, okay, that is what we need about this project. The document in this essence, when we talk about the software document here now, is now how do we write the specification to the developer that when an order comes from our customer, then we need to take this order and send it to XYZ. The developer needs to write that code in the SAP system to be able to do that. This is an example. The document here that we're talking about is the software document that we need to send to the developer for them to be able to write that code to perform that duty. Do you understand? Hello?
So, let me quickly come in a little bit again. So, in a project, right, we have different teams. We have the development team, we have the functional team, and we have the BA team, right? So, the BA most times are the business people, right, who understand their business, who talk to their stakeholders, who talk to the leadership of the business, right? And the BA teams get this whole thing together, send it to work with the functional team on how the functionality of the system is going to be is going to function, and then it goes to the development team that develops the process, right? So it's like, oh, when I get to the office in the morning, I want my computer, as soon as I put in my password, I want my system to automatically log me into the system. And then as soon as I put in my last name, I want the system to automatically give me the tables to do my job, right? So you as a business analyst, you talk to the everybody in the business to say, oh, this is going to be the process we're going to use, right? You get those information. It can be verbally, it can be like Brian said, this software document preparation, right? You put everything together and then you discuss with the functional team on this process on how it's going to work. So as soon as the functional team signs off on it, you sign off on it and agree, then you now give this document to the development team who's going to write the code for you to get to work in the morning, put in your last name in your system, and then the table comes out for you to be able to do your job.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Is
Kevin.
that a
Thank
better
you.
understanding or a better explanation, guys?
Thank you.
So,
So I don't know who asked that question. Do you understand now? I don't know. To whoever asked the question, do you understand?
Yes. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
okay,
you.
thank you. All right, get back.
All right. So now your role also in a project, your role also in a project will involve what we call test case. So test case preparation, your role will involve that. So okay. So your role also will involve test case preparation. So let's take the example here. The document has been prepared. You send that functional specification document to the developer. Of course, the developer will start working on it. Once the developer starts working on it, you also, part of the role of a BA will be working on what test case preparation. Remember, the developer, they don't know the business. They only know how to write the code inside the SAP. You are the one as a business analyst that has been dealing with the stakeholders. You've been dealing with these folks. Understand me? You've been dealing with these folk. You understand the business requirement, everything. You were also involved in this requirement gathering. You were involved in this and this. So you kind of like, you are the one that is knowledgeable about this project on what it needs to do. Now, let's take the example from Kevin's example. The project is to, when you get in, logging into your system, then the system should automatically log you in and open a table that you need to work with. That is example number one. Mine example, when an order comes from a customer, that order should then be sent to another company to fulfill that order. That's example two. Now, the document has been prepared, sent to the developer to develop this process, to begin to write those code. At the same time, while the developers are working on that code, your own part of your responsibility as a BA that you might come across, remember, you are not going to be the only BA in this team. And you might also find yourself being the only BA in a team, in a project. So just have, you guys should have that in the back of your mind. Now, you were assigned also, because you understand the business, then you will also might be involved in the test case preparation, which means test case preparation means it's another document, which we call it test case preparation, which means once the developer is done with the job, you have to test first. You have to test first that functionality. That means once the developer comes back and say, we are done developing this, then as a BA or within that team, everybody has to go actually. Let's take example number one, logging into the system and see if really the system automatically logs you in and gives you that table. Or once a customer places an order, let's see, you will go in and test it as a customer. You will be like, act like a customer in the SAP system, and you place an order. And then you see if that order is automatically received and actually send it to that company. Then that is the test case. The test case document, which we are also going to look into at the later part of this class on how to prepare the document, will also detail that step that needs to be taken, which means every step that you perform in testing that functionality, you also have to document that step. And that step that you are documenting for that test is what we call the test case preparation document. So that is it. So you guys need to understand the difference between the software document preparation and the test case. So developers who is going to be working on this while you will be preparing this test step based on the requirement of that project. To make sure that once developers are done, you will need to test and document that test case or that test process in a document, so that tomorrow when you sign off from that test and say this thing is working according to what the business want, you will pass it, so that tomorrow or in the future the company can refer back to that test case or to that test that you perform and your documentation on that test. So that is on test case. Then now, once you prepare that test case preparation with the document, is already done. Now, it doesn't mean that the developers are done. The developers are still working, but you are also working on the side, preparing. So these two can run in parallel. These two can run in parallel. This is just like you are multitasking as a BA. You are working on the document, the test case preparation on how to test this process, while the developers, they've already prepared the document and sent to the developers. Now, once this document is sent to the developers, the software document is prepared. Once the software document is already prepared, then the software is sent to the developer. There will also have to be what we call knowledge transfer to the developers. The knowledge transfer to the developer is sending this software document preparation to the developers. Now, are you the one sending that document? yes and no. When I mean yes, if you are the one that prepared the functional specification, of course, you are going to be the one to send it to the developer. But also, you need to understand that this is an SAP business analyst role, which means that you probably sometimes in a project you are not the only business analyst. But whoever is assigned to a task that needs to write a functional specification, that functional specification document needs to be written and needs to be sent to the developer. So once you send the functional specification to the developer, that is what you've just done here. You've just done what? The knowledge transfer to the developer. Now, what happens? The developers, they go through that document, understand what you said or what is inside that document, then they will start working on the code or implementing that functionality. If they have any issue or any misunderstanding, they will come back to two-person. They will come back to either the document to understand the functionality of what they are missing. If they can't find what they are missing in that document or they want to have a clarity, they will come to what? To you who understand the business and who have been part of this project gathering gap analysis from the onset to also explain to them or to answer their question. So that is the reason why, as an SAP business analyst, you are also going to be standing as a subject matter expert to be able to transfer this knowledge properly to these developers so that they can write an efficient code that can meet the need of the business. So that is how it works. Okay, so let's go back. So now that is the knowledge transfer part. Now, the second to the last step is now what we call
Oh, I've missed a lot.
the second to the last step is what we now call the verification solutions. The verification solution is once the developers are done,
Hello, Mr. Brown, please. I did not get the knowledge transfer development.
once the please this training is being recorded. So any person that missed anything can always go back during the week and the video is going to be sent to everybody. Not the link is going to come from WebEx. The link is going to come from so now the the second to the last is the verification process. So on the verification of solution is this. Now the developer is done with the job. Because the developer is done with the job, the developer now says, we are done with the coding. Now, when a developer says they are done in a project or they say the implementation of the codes or the process is done, does not mean it is 100% done. This is where you as the business analyst or the group of the business analyst or the whoever is responsible or whoever is assigned, they will now come to this test case. They will now use the test steps that has been documented here in the different steps to test that solution because we call the project solution. So to test the solution, if indeed in an example one, it goes in and logging into the
Right, I
computer
have a question. So
and
I have a
see
question. So I have a question. So what's test?
the test is to test the solution, what the
Right,
developer has done. So that's where I'm going
right,
to.
right. Because I know people are asking about test case preparation because they have to understand what test before
Yeah.
the test preparation.
So
So yes, go ahead, please.
if any person have an issue with the language or the test, please feel free. This is the reason why we are here. Ask those questions. So test means when we talk about test case, that's what I say test case. You are test how to test the solution. We have given two examples here. The two examples we have given is logging into the system. It says for it to automatically log in and then be able to open maybe let's say a table. So you need, that's the test. You will definitely need to test what the developer has done in the SAP system. In the other one example that I gave, I say a customer places an order and they want to send that sales order to another company. You will need to test, actually, you will now act like the customer and actually place the order in the SAP system. Then you will now see if the system will then automatically send that order to to the whatever customer. So that is the test that is there. You have to test what the developers have done. You have to test what the developer have done. Now, that testing what the developer have done is what we call verification of solution.
Correct.
So they are just using a different language here. So I'm trying to break those English down. So the process whereby you are testing, remember you've created a test case document on how you are going to test the solution. Then once the developer now says they are done, then you will now go and test what the developer have done based on the scope of this project. Based on the scope of this project, you will go and test it to see if it's working. And the testing process that you are doing is what we call verification of the solution. So now once the verification of the solution is done, two things can involve. One, if the solution is not working as discussed, then you will have to come back to the developer and let them know. And the developer will then ask, what is the problem? You should be able, as a business analyst, explain the problem to them so that the developer can look into their code or whatever they've done to fix that issue. That is scenario one. But when you finish your verification testing, you test and that solution is working according to the plan, is exactly working according to the plan. This means that the code or whatever the developer have done is perfect. Then you will have to come back to this document, the test case preparation document. That document, you have to come back to that document and pass that solution because it's a report. You have to document what you did and you have to say, okay, it passes. That means it's accurate. So when we are talking about this test case preparation document, please, as a BA, I want you guys to understand that we are not talking in a project. It depends on how big the project is. Sometimes we are not talking about just one document here. Please,
Right.
this, if it's a big project, trust me, some project can have thousands of test cases.
So
So
let me
it's
Brian, sorry to cut you. Let me quickly throw a little light on this, right? I know a lot of us here are very new to IT and very new to IT industry. So when we hear test, when we hear testing process, a very quick, easy, practical example is like you just bought a new TV, right? You bought a new TV from the store. You take the TV to the house. You bring it out from the box, right? That's the first thing you do. As soon as you bring out the TV from the box, you have to read the manual and then you follow the manual. The manual is theoretically a test case, right? That you are going to use for the installation of that television. So as soon as you bring out your TV from the box, you plug in the cord. You put the cord, you plug it to the wall. You get the remote control. You put it on. You set for your channels. So those stages are test scenarios, which I'm using a TV as an example now. Those stages will be documented from an application perspective. So for those people who don't know what test is, so I'm just giving a practical example of step-by-step process. Now you want to hang your TV on the wall. Now you want to connect it to the internet. Now you want to connect it to YouTube. You want to connect it to Netflix. So those step-by-step processes, it's what test cases are. So those are test cases from an application perspective that will be tested. So those are the test case preparation. So when people hear the word test in the application or software development process, they might really be like, "Oh, what is testing?" So you are theoretically testing what has been built from one um, just the whole process to make sure that it's functioning properly. So that's why I just use the TV example from when you buy it to when you install it to when you're actually watching the TV. Those are all test scenarios.
All right. Thank you
Brian,
very
was
much.
that helpful?
Okay. Thank you.
Was that helpful, Brian? Is that okay?
Yeah, that was helpful. That was helpful. So because we are trying to break everything down in multiple way, break it down in a layman term and also in an IT
Exactly.
term, so that you guys
Exactly.
will understand both angles.
Thank you.
So the last is the support after the implementation. So once the verification is done in the project, the verification of the solution is done, and everything passes, everything works fine, then the project is implemented, which means we roll it, we call it go live. That means we roll it out. That's what we call it in the SAP world. We call it rollout or go live. You understand me? So that is where it is then rollout for the business, for these stakeholders guys to start using the process. Because in all of this process testing, all of that, remember we've been mentioning stakeholders. Stakeholders, they are not involved. So by the time we roll it out, implement it, that's what we call implementation, then support after implementation. So when we support after implementation is we've rolled it out, the business has started using it. Now, let me go back to example that Kevin gave. You buy the TV. If you buy the TV, you hang it, you on it. Now, because you are owning it, you are watching it for that day. Doesn't mean the TV might not have issue. That is the reason why you have warranty, right? So let's say after 2 weeks, the TV started giving issues. What will you do? You take it back to the store and you tell them it is not working. Then what would they would do to you? They'll say, okay, we give you another, or they can refund you. But that is just for TV. But in the implementation environment, as a business analyst, once we roll out that project or that functionality, the business will start using it. Then we'll call it support, which means that we begin to see whatever issues the business are now having with that process. You are going to be in the support role to help the business to what to cope with that. So in the support role, sometimes it can be an issue with the what they implemented. So if it's an issue, then you will be the one to get with the business or the stakeholders, understand what the issue is, and be able to document the issue and send that issue back to the developers to work on it. Or sometimes it might not be an issue, it might be a process issue, a knowledge transfer. Sometimes because you guys have rolled it out, the business they might not know how to use that functionality. Then it will be your job as part of the BA team to work with the business or the stakeholders, train them on how to use the system. So that is what we call support after implementation. So which means the project has already gone live, the business are using it. Then whatever comes after, then we support the issue. If it's an issue, we tell the business keep if there's an issue that the business can still use the process, but we can fix the issue at the back end. We say, okay, business, you can continue using it, but don't use this part. We will fix this part. But if it is an issue that we just shut everything down, then which it doesn't really happens because all of these issue doesn't really happen, then we can go back and say, okay, we need to fix this. You business, give us 2 weeks, 1 week to quickly fix this so that you guys can get on it. You know, understand me? But if it's a process issue, of course, some project will require you as the business analyst to create a training document. So you will need to create a training document based on your test process, which in a TV that Kevin makes an example of a TV becomes a manual that the business will use to follow the process. So sometimes you will be the one to write the manual for the business. But in an SAP environment, we don't call it manual. We call it the business process procedures. So sometimes it will be your responsibility to write the business process procedures and give it to the stakeholders and the business for them on how to perform those responsibilities. So all of this is what we consider support after implementation. The two things I want you us to get out of this is implementation. Support after implementation means the project has already been rolled out. It is now live in the production, which we are going to talk about all of this SAP terminology in the later part of this class. But this is just to tell you guys that the project is done, it has been rolled out, and the business they've started using that functionality in that project, or the project is done. But after the project is done, but we still need to support, watch the project for the next, natural, we call it hypercare. In some project, we perform 1 month. In some project, 2 weeks. In some project, 3 months. It all depends on how big the project is. So we call it hypercare. Hypercare means we look, we sit back, the business is using it, then we see whether they are having any issues or not with our project. So that is the 12 steps or the 12 roles of a business analyst in a project in SAP or in an ERP environment or even in an IT environment as a what? As a business analyst. So this is where I'm going to round up, and at the same time I'm going to ask, does anyone have any question? Other names, brand. So this training, other names, brand, logo, etc. are registered trade service marks of their respective owners. EMW Learning is not affiliated with SAP, SE, SAP AG, or the SAP or logo or product names, and SAP screenshot, SAP SE, or any of the SAP product being used in this training. So we are not the owner. And so I just want to point out clear, it's a disclaimer, and every one of us that is conducting training, as long as we are not partner with SAP, we are required to make sure this is strictly pronounced. So that is one thing I just want us all to understand, so that tomorrow comes, you don't say, oh no, it's SAP product. No. So we are not registered. So every thing that we're using here is a borrowed functions. All right, so now that we've gotten that out of way, and I believe that everybody now knows your roles as a business analyst. So as we begin to talk about business analytics and SAP Business Analytics, at least I believe by now in the back of our mind, when we go back to watch this video, or if some people jot down those steps, there are some materials, reading materials that will be shared with everybody here and accesses. And there are some material that are instructor based that will not be shared, but just kind of like give us a guide to understand. So I believe everybody knows at least the 12 steps or the 12 steps that is involved in an SAP business analyst role. So you should know that you can always get involved in everywhere. All right. So let's go now into SAP. So now we are slowing, taking a step forward. This is the first week of our class. And because it's the first week of our class, we are now going to be going into the system, play. And everybody, I think I have servers for some few people here. And I thought I should have sent out those servers, but I have not sent out the server. So I am going to, maybe we're going to take this time. I'm going to send out those servers for those first batch of people because some people registered late, so we could not get their server's credentials, and I've not been able to send it out. So I'm going to send it out if it is required as we go through this today's class, but of course I'm going to send it after this class to everybody, so you can always go back to the video and watch it and practice. So this is the first week of this class. So it's class one. Like I explained to everybody on here, and if I didn't have the opportunity to speak with you, it's a 9 weeks class. So this is the first week. So we still have, about 8 weeks to go. The first 6 weeks, we're going to be talking about the theoretical and practical. We're going to be doing theory and practical hands-on. Then the seventh week, we are going to talk about the job market, interview, all of that. And we're actually going to have at least send everybody's resume to our third-party resume builder to build everybody's resume at least. As a matter of fact, what we want to do in this training, because of demand, fear, or everybody afraid, and so we don't want to leave everybody in the, you know, by themselves. So in the seventh week, everybody's actually going to use their resume to go apply for a job. So that is the goal. Seventh week, you're gonna go actually go apply for a job. See how it works. So whatever your phobia, your experience, your questions, your failure, you will bring it. So that as we go through the class for the remainder of the 8 weeks and 9 weeks, which is practically like 3 weeks, we'll be able to address some questions, some issues, your experience with the job market, which will give everybody a better opportunity. So that is one of the changes we've done. So the seventh week, everybody's resume at least should be ready. We'll send it out. Then everybody will go and apply. But before you go, the seventh we will talk about the job market interview tips, and all of those things. We'll prep you for that Sunday so that the Monday of it, you can go apply for a job. Then we'll come back, we start assimilating. Then the 8 weeks also, we are going to be talking about the job market, interview tips, your issues, your challenges. We'll talk about that on the 8 weeks. Then on the ninth week, we'll then look at a major project. But still on the 8 weeks, we should try and make sure that we do our normal regular topics. So that is it. So now let's go into the first class of the week. So class one, this week's class, or the class one, which can extend to a week plus or sometimes within a week. So in the class one, topics contain the following details. So in the next 1 hour or so, I'm going to be going through the slide, and wherever we end, we'll be able to ask those questions, and everybody will see everything, and you can go back to this video during the week. So introduction into the business world. So let's start as an SAP business analyst. Now, like I said, we're going to be using step one in our business role. So everybody should know that step. That is going to be the first assignment that we're actually going to give out today. Everybody's going to write it down. So the first assignment is actually going to be understanding those 12 steps in the SAP business role. So in the step one, we're talking about planning. So when we talk about planning, we are talking about planning a project. Then in the step two, what we'll talk about was the assist. The assist is understanding the current stage of that project, or the current stage of the implementation. And you cannot understand those things without you understanding the business. So now we are going to go into the business. Introduction into the business world. For this training purpose, we have taken two business word for us to understand how the business world works. We have taken the B2B, and these are the environment that you're going to find yourself, or when I talk about environment, I'm talking about the business world environment. Now, as a BA, you are going to find yourself working in an industry, business industries like warehouse manufacturing industry, wholesale industry, retail industry. Maybe some of us might find ourselves working in an oil industry, pharmaceutical industry, banking industry. So it doesn't really matter, even automotive industry. So it doesn't really matter the industry you find yourself in. So the two major concept of business we have taken from here is the business to customer and the business to business process. So we are going to first of all break this down so that we understand when we get into the workforce, or when you go out there as a business analyst, when they talk about business to business or business to customer, which is also refers to B2B or B2C, so that you have an understanding of what it simply means or the concept of that business process. Then in this class one, we are also going to talk about the introduction into SAP Business World. Now we talk about the business world, and we are going to talk about the SAP Business World. In the SAP Business World, we are going to now talk about the SAP Sales and Distribution module with the integration of material management and finance. And what we are going to focus on, we are going to focus on the basic component in the SAP or in an ERP system. But please always remember, when we use the word ERP, we are simply saying that whatever you learn from SAP, you can use it in other ERP systems. So SAP is an ERP system, which we are going to talk about after this. So now we're going to talk about sales and distribution integration with material management finance, basic component in SAP and ERP. We are going to talk about the organizational unit in an SAP or in an ERP system. We're also going to try and cover what we call the master data in SAP ERP environment. And we're also going to cover sales and procurement process overview. So all of this is just going to be like theoretical overview that we can practically might even cover today for this first class. And if we don't cover it, then on Thursday, we should be able to cover this. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
What do you see? I just want to make sure. What do you see on my screen?
Enterprise resource planning.
Okay, great. Now, that was one of the things when Kevin asked, and he was trying to ask you guys if you know anything about ERP system, because he also knew that we are going to talk about it. So he wanted to prepare you guys' mind so that you understand what an enterprise is. When we use the word here, you can see in the introduction into the SAP word, we talk about SAP slash ERP, which means SAP or ERP system. Now let's understand what an ERP system is. An ERP system simply stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. So all of these are just soft landing to give you guys the overview idea of how it works. Enterprise Resource Planning means ERP. There are 4 bullets point here. We are not going to talk about ERP enterprise all day long because it's a monster on its own. But there are 4 bullet points here that will help us understand from the high level of what an ERP planning is. The first bullet is, in general, ERP uses a centralized database for various business processes to reduce manual labor and to simplify existing what business process workflows. ERP system typically contains dashboards where users can look in real-time data collected from all across the business to measure productivity and profitability. And that is the reason why companies use this word, an ERP system. So when we talk about centralized database, let's take an example of a centralized database. An example, you have a company, maybe company ABC. Majority of us on here, we've worked for a company Now, a company that sells, let's take an example, company ABC. Company ABC sells, let's say, electronics. Let's say they sell electronics. Now, when they sell electronics, they will have what we call a sales department. Then they will also have what we call distribution department. The distribution department is the department that is going to take the electronics that they sell into different stores or deliver those products into how to reach out to different customers. So those are the distribution. They might have a distribution what department. Then they will of course have what we call their material management department. That material management department are the people that are actually in charge of what the electronics products themselves. So they will manage that as well. They have a department for that. Now they have their inventory department. This inventory department are the department that keeps the inventory of the product that they sell. Take for example, how many laptops do they have in stock? How many TVs do they have in stock? How many Bluetooth S speakers do they have in stock? So these are guys take care of the inventory. Where is the inventory stored? The inventory is stored in the warehouse. So they have their warehouse department. And let's bring it back. When people buy, who take care of the finance? The receiving is the finance department. If they are buying a product from their vendor, who buys the product from their vendor to replenish their stock? It is the finance department. So they have a finance department. Now, ABC company, let's just sum it up and say ABC company has 5 departments. The 5 departments they have is sales, distribution, material management, inventory department, warehouse department, and let's say finance department. 6 departments. Across all these 6 departments, individual department is using their own what? Applications to perform their day-to-day tasks. Finance department have their own application they use in calculating their own funds, receiving funds, you know, looking up customers that is paying, that is owing. Inventory department that has their own application to calculate inventories. Warehouse department has their own. So all of this makes the organization not to be centralized because they have a data that is being stored in individual applications that whenever you need a data from this application, you have to go to individual department to go get those raw data. Then it defeats the purpose. So what ERP does here, ERP say, you know what? We are going to cut the missing link. Why not just use one application in your company? And that one application, the finance department can use it, the inventory department can use it, the warehouse department can use it, the sales department can use it, and the distribution department can use it. One application that can service your 6 department. And that is what an ERP enterprise does. One centralized database that services different departments. And those departments in an SAP word, we call them modules. That is the reason why when you see me mention sales and distribution, which is SD, it means sales and distribution module. When you hear material management, it means material management modules. When you hear finance, it means FI modules. We have controlling, we have production planning, we have WM, warehouse management, we have different asset management, name it. SAP has up to what? 20 modules. So that is what it means when they say an ERP uses a centralized database for various business processes to reduce manual labor and to simplify existing business workflow. So that is one of the major functions of an enterprise resource planning. Let's take SAP out of the concept. So an enterprise does all of that. The second bullet, enterprise resource planning systems are used by organizations looking to manage their business functions within a centralized and integrated system. The example that I gave, a company that has 6 departments, the 6 departments are using different application. Their data, their application is not integrated. But with an enterprise resource planning system, functionalities and systems, departments, modules, all of them are integrated into one centralized environment. ERP is commonly used by companies working within the supply chain management. ERP is tailored towards supply chain management. Now, at the end of this class, also, you can also call yourself a supply chain business analyst. So, the knowledge you're going to gain from this training is just beyond SAP alone, it's beyond business analytics alone. The scope of where you can get a job or how you can utilize this training is enormous. So, ERP system is commonly used by companies working within the supply chain to help keep track of all the moving parts of manufacturing and what distributions. The third bullet, examples of an ERP system modules include product life cycle management, supply chain management, for example, purchasing. So an ERP system can manage the purchasing department, the manufacturing department, the distribution department, warehouse management, customer relationship management, CRM. All these things can be integrated. Sales order processes, online sales, financials, human resources, and decision support system. Even external systems that are not ERP based can be linked to an ERP system. We call those type of application third-party application or add-on. So an ERP system is a big system, and that is the reason why when companies are implementing this system, any ERP system, we are not talking about thousands, we are talking about millions of dollars to implement just that one application. A project sometimes for with an organization, they can end up spending 20 to 50 million dollars to just implement one application. So we need to understand that an ERP system, an enterprise resource planning system, is not just a standalone system. This is a system that even this SAP system can be bought from SAP at the rate of almost about 500 to $1 million. We are not talking about the consultant, the cost of setting it up, implementing, that is going to be almost about 20 to, it all depends. And lastly, in this slide, I also put in here types of ERP systems. So for us to understand, and that was what Kevin was trying to make you guys understand, that we have several types of ERP systems that are out there. It is not just SAP. And that is the reason why in the beginning I mentioned that at the end of this training, you will be able to go out there to also work as an ERP business analyst by leveraging what you have learned from this training to be able to work in other ERP environment, because it's the same, I would say the same concept with, let's say, 20% differences, but they work the same way. So what we are here teaching you guys is teaching you the concept so that you can go out there and strive. So the last bullet is types of ERP system. We have SAP R3, which is the one that we're actually going to be training on. The R3 application is what we're going to be training on. And once you have, or majority of you students here, you already have the application on your system. We have SAP B1, which means Business One. SAP also have another application called Business One. We have Microsoft Dynamic AS. This is an ERP system that is owned by Microsoft himself. We are all used to Microsoft. So Microsoft has their own ERP system, which is called Microsoft AS Dynamics or Dynamics AX. We also have Microsoft Dynamics NAV. These are ERP systems that belongs to Microsoft. JD Edward. We also have JD Edward. I have worked on JD Edward before, and I came in with my SAP knowledge and I work on that project. They have their own. JD Edward have their own, and JD Edward ERP system is owned by Oracle. We also have Oracle Financials ERP system, and we also have PeopleSoft. PeopleSoft is also owned by Oracle. So Kevin made mention of one thing when he was trying to make an example. He said, take for example, a company wants to buy an ERP system. He said they will perform their analysis to see what suits their business. Not every company uses SAP. SAP does not meet the strategy of all business. And some company might decide not to go for SAP because it's too expensive. They might decide to go for Microsoft AS Dynamics or Oracle Financials or PeopleSoft. It all depends on what suits their business. So it's very important for us to know that there are a lot of ERP systems that are out there. But I just mentioned these because these are majorly common ERP systems that are used by corporate America in the manufacturing, wholesale, and retail industries in America. There are still several, a lot of it. We have Lawson, you understand me? So, but with this, it's just to prepare your mind to understand the full scope of what it means when we talk about an ERP system, an enterprise resource planning system. All right. Going back to our first introduction, now that we've clarified what an ERP means, so everybody have an understanding like, oh man, now I understand ERP, I understand SAP, how SAP ties with an ERP system. So now I believe everybody has that understanding that an SAP system is an ERP system. It's just that SAP belongs to SAP company. But SAP is an ERP what? System. It belongs to the ERP family. But it's an ERP system can be created by any company that has the capability and they can decide to call it anything. So SAP is a company that decide to create their own ERP what system and they decide to call it SAP RP, SAP R3 ECC. Understand me? So now that we've clarified that part of an enterprise resource planning, let's now go to the business word, the normal layman business word. Business to customer flow. Let's understand the concept here. Like all of these that I'm saying, we are just trying to understand it from what? From the overview, taking it from the scratch. We are bringing you guys up from the scratch so that you understand. Business to customer flow. We all are all customers. Everybody on this class have shopped or buy something from Amazon. So an example of a business to customer is Amazon. Amazon company is a perfect example of a business to customer. Now, how does it work? Example of flow, an internet or web platform, business to customer process, customer ordering process. So we are talking about customer ordering process. So let's take an example here. Amazon. You go to Amazon. What is the first step you do on Amazon? So the first step of a business to customer, sorry, the first example of a business to customer is to first, sorry, an example of a business to customer is to first what? Find the item. Sorry, something. Word is to first find the product. So when you go on Amazon, which is our example here, you first of all you have a product in mind that you want to buy. You go to Amazon, then you find the product. Once you find the product, you see the product. So there are a lot of product on Amazon. But when you find the right product, the one you're looking for, what do? You add that product to cart. When you add that product to cart, the next step you do is you check out. Once you check out, then you add what? Your payment method. The next step is you pay for the item. Then once you pay for the item, receive your what? Your goods. This is the typical step of a business to customer process. Anywhere. That's the reason why I said all of us at some point in time we've done it. We can walk into a store. You're looking for a product. Take for example, you walk into a deli shop. You're looking to buy maybe even gas. You go in, you pay for your gas, you go, you pump your gas, you go. But you have to pay, you receive your product, you go. Or you walk into a deli shop, you're trying to buy maybe candy. You have to first of all look for the type of the candy that you want to buy. Once you find the candy, you pick the candy up. Automatically, when you're picking the candy up and you go to the counter to pay, what you are doing right there is you are actually adding to card and checking out right there in front of the counter. You give the man the money or the person on the counter the money, the cashier takes the money, which means you pay for the item and you've received your goods right there. You take your goods away. That is a business to customer process. And in this environment, we call the B2C the retail concept. So this is the retail industry. This is a retail what? Industry. The B2C business process is a retail industry. So when you go to the job market, you begin to understand when they talk about B2C, you should just know the concept. When they say retail, we are still going to get to the difference, but just for everyone to understand the business to customer flow. So this is number one major business concept that is out there in the world. So we need to understand that. The next is the business to customer. So example of flow, an internet web online business to business process. In the business to business world, there are two processes involved in business ordering process. This is the difference. Now, in the B2C, which is in the retail industry, what do? We pay first. And the only service that is provided as a payment method is either you pay cash or you pay with card, your bank account, or whatever, depending on what the business is. But you have to pay first. But in the B2B world, in an example of a B2B world, let's make a typical example here. In the B2C, we talk about Amazon to you, who is the customer. So you are the customer, the consumer. You go to Amazon, you pick, you buy, you pay, you receive. But in the B2B world, let's talk about we know Walmart. So let's talk about Walmart actually doing business with, let's say, what company will I use now? Let's say they are doing business with Good. They are doing business with HP. Walmart is doing business with HP. HP is a business on its own. It's a laptop manufacturer, and Walmart is a retail industry that sells to final consumers. Now, how does this process work in the B2B world? They find the product that they wants to buy. Walmart finds the product that they wants to buy from HP. In a practical example, what happens here? Let's say they are ordering that product online. They go to HP platform or HP website. They already know the product they want to buy. Maybe they want to stock their their store. They already know that okay, we need 50 laptops, HP brand. They know all the brand. So they find the product on HP website. Same thing, they had that process to cart. You understand me? When they had it to cart in the B2, then they check out. Now, it all depends on their agreement. In some business, the reason why I brought this up, why I said business to business in the credit card process, there are what we call SLA. There's something we call SLA, which means service level agreement. There are some business that are considered high risk. Now, we're talking about Walmart to HP. Walmart is a big company. HP is not going to consider Walmart as a risky person. They as a risky business. They can say to Walmart and say, "Let's go." So let's take an example of a small mom and pop shop trying to buy from HP. HP might say, "Look, yes, you are a business, but before you can buy from us, we will need you to pay upfront to receive the goods." It's still a business to business. So in that business to business, at that point, they will require the business to have their payment method online and pay for the item before they receive the goods. So which means here that a business to business can perform a business as a retail or as a B2C concept. They can perform their business also. They will have a flow of their own part of a business that can be like a business to customer, but it's still business to business. Now, the second process, which is mostly common between businesses these days, this is the major one in the B2B world. In an example of Walmart doing business with HP, Walmart can find the product of the laptop they want to buy online, add it to cart. They will check out. The missing link here is Walmart is not going to pay. Walmart is going to receive the goods before they make what? Payment. This is the major B2B process. The number two here is the major B2B process in every organization you will go to that deals with business to business in the real world. And also the B2B process, they can incorporate the step process of a B2C, maybe when they are dealing with the customer that has to pay with credit card, because they don't want to take the chances. They want to receive their funds if they consider the business as high risk. But by the time they don't consider that business and as high risk, they can move that business to a term. They can move that business to the actual business, which is, we call it the terms process. So it's very important that we understand the difference between a B2C and a B2B business concept. The difference here is in the B2C world or in the retail world, consumers have to pay before they receive goods. But in the B2B world, the business receives goods before they pay for the goods. Okay, so before I move forward, going into the SAP side of it,
Yes.
please speak out louder. I can hear you clearly.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I said the last thing you said, I didn't get it. The difference between B2C, B2B. You said the
Okay.
customers have to pay for the B2B and the B2C. I didn't get that last one.
The major difference, that's like I said, the major difference between the B2C or a B2B concept is this. In the B2C world, you pay before you receive your goods. But in the B2B world, most business to business, they do business on terms, which means the business receive the goods before they make payment. So they call it a term payment. But also the B2B can also incorporate a B2C process, mostly when they are dealing with either high risk business or a credit card paying business. Does that answer your question? Hello?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. We just need to know that the major one, the major B2B concept is the second scenario, terms process, but they are flexible enough to also incorporate the B2C scenario when it comes to the high risk business or any business they consider high risk, or if it's a credit card transactions. So, any other question? Let's go further. Sales and distribution, material management, and FI component in SAP. Now we are taking it gradually. Like you can see the way we are building it up, we are building everybody up, everybody understanding. So please, if you have a question, let us know. SD with integration with material management and finance component, process component and integrations. I want us to understand the process and the component of what we're going to be talking about here. And when we talk about the sales and distribution, the component here, we're going to be referring to them as like department. We're going to be referring to them as like department. And in the integration, we're going to be letting you, we are trying to make you guys understand that this is the area where SD integrates with MM and FI. And you can come across all of this in an interview. Someone might just ask you, do you have experience in MM? They know that you're a business analyst and they just want to know, oh, sales and distribution business analyst, and they're like, oh, MM, okay, well, can you just tell us the integration point of an SD with MM, just to kind of like throw you, at least you'll be able to speak on it. So the process component is of SD, sales and distribution, and the integration part is to tell you where the component of an SD integrate with material management. So number one, the sales department, or whatever they call it, some people call it customer service department. The customer service department or the sales department is solely SD. That is the only part of SD. Now, when we talk about when I say the only part of SD is this, any business out there, be it manufacturing, wholesale, retail, automotive, every business out there, their goal is to sell a product or to offer a service and to receive money. So when we talk about sales department, the sales department responsibility is to sell and distribute the product. Sell, distribute this product to this customer, which some people call customer service and all of that. That is the goal. So that entire spectrum is an SD functionality. So which you need to understand as a BA in the SAP world, how the business works, how do they sell this product? And that is what we're going to focus. How do they sell? How do they distribute this product? Now, once they sell a product, they have to ship it to the customer. They have to package it. The product has to leave the warehouse. The product has to leave the inventory. So we'll talk about which we also call the logistics execution. When you get to the word of supply chain, the word of supply chain, you are not going to be hearing about shipping department, but you are going to mostly be hearing about logistics execution. And by the time you start looking for a job out there too, you're going to be seeing somebody that say, oh, somebody that is good in SAP LE. LE simply means logistics execution. So someone that understands the logistics execution of the SD, which means once a customer or once a company sells this product, how does this product get to the customer? The process from when the product was sold and the process through which this product gets to the customer. It is called the shipping or the logistics what execution. And the logistics execution is handled by the shipping department. And the shipping department is centralized mainly in the inventory management, warehouse management, because they are the one that will package, do everything, ship the product, UPS, carrier, where that will take it to the customer. So that area of an SD is an integration point with material management. It's an integration point with material management because the product that is sold is a material, and that material needs to be handled. So have it at the back of your mind. Then we'll talk about the billing department or the account receivable, because when the product is sold to the customer, of course, the customer has to pay for the product, which means they have to receive funds. And the people that are in charge of sending invoice, billing the customer, doing the donning, calling the customer, telling the customer your bill is due, the people that are involved in receiving the payment, doing the journal entry, the incoming payment, the creating the outgoing invoice, all of this is the responsibility of the billing department or the account receivable department in combination. And this is the area that integrate with the SD and FI, which is the finance. The finance there is the account receivable. The SD is the what? The billing department. The SD is the billing department. The account receivable is the FI. They work hand in hand. The shipping department is the SD. The logistics execution is the material management. They work hand in hand. Credit management. When we go to credit management, credit management in the essence that, like I mentioned, when we're looking at the B2B business process scenario, I mentioned something. I said when a business perceive another business as high risk, then they find a way to deal with it. Even if they don't consider a business as high risk, there's still what we call credit management. Take, for example, if Walmart is doing business with HP, HP might decide and say, you know what, Walmart, you can buy anything you want to buy from us all through the month and pay us at the end of the month. From the beginning of the month, you can buy whatever you want to buy from us and pay us at the end of the month. However, your purchase, your purchase credibility that we're going to give to you is going to be $1 million. You cannot buy more than a $1 million worth of goods from us within a month. That restriction right there, it's part of what we call the credit management. Another example, let's bring it down to your layman terms. Your credit card. You go to American Express, you go to Visa, Master, your bank, they give you a credit card. But there's a limit of what they give to you. There's a limit of what the transactions that you can perform with your credit card. If they give you $1,000, that means you can only buy $1,000 worth of good. If they give you $5,000, that means you can only buy $5,000 worth of goods. That path, that limitation, that restriction is what we call the credit management. Business to business, they offer these two to their own fellow business because this training is going to be tailored towards the business to business. We are actually not dealing with business to customer, we are dealing with business to business. So the part of that is what we call credit management and is the part of SD that is integrated with what? Finance. Customer service and merchandisers. The word merchandisers are the people that buys the product, the people that source for the product. Either name they can call them product source, product merchandiser, buyers. It doesn't. I don't care what name they call them. But in the corporate world, you begin to understand these terminologies. So when you hear the word merchandisers, so it's a group of people that are put together. They can either be a buyer, they can be a product sourcers. So which means that when a company runs out of product, take for example, Walmart. If a Walmart runs out of HP laptops, who are the people that is responsible to procure or to replenish the stock? Those people or those group of people or that department will be the one that will reach out to HP to place that order, to place that purchase order. And those department and that group in the SD world is customer service. Customer service in the SD world, because in the SD world we have the customer service that will work hand in hand. The customer service that will reach out to the purchasing department that says, we have run out of stock. Then the purchasing department, which are the merchandisers, they will then procure the product into stock. So that is the area of SD also that is integrated with material management, which means customer service is the SD side. The merchandisers, who are the buyers or the product sourcers, are from the So this is the integration part of SD and And finally, we are going to talk about accounts and finance management. So let's talk about the SD side accounts. Every customer. So when I mean every customer, when I'm using the word customer, please, when I'm using the word customer here, I'm talking about the business that is buying from the other business. So take for example, Walmart is buying from HP. Walmart is a customer to HP, but they are both businesses. So when I'm using the word customer in this B2B word, which is most of the thing here, you're going to be hearing me saying a lot. So please understand that I'm saying customer means that I'm talking about the business that is buying from another business. I'm not referring to the B2C customer, which in a B2B world, people like us, they call us consumers. They call us consumers. They don't call us customers. So customers are the other business that is buying. So in the case of the business scenario of Walmart buying from HP, it means that Walmart is a customer to HP. If Walmart is buying laptops from IBM, it means that Walmart is a customer to IBM. So that is what I want you also understand. So every customer has an account. Just like your credit card, you have an account. If you go to Amazon today, you have an account. If you go to even Walmart, some of us have an account with Walmart. So every customer has an account. So create the creation of a customer to have an account with the business is part of SD. So we need to understand what we call account, and that is what we're going to talk about master data. And that is where it relates with SD because every customer needs to have an account. Then the financial management, which is the FI, where it integrates with FI is every customer that have an account must have a what their financial details also with the business. And what I mean by financial details, a typical example is Amazon. If you go and buy, you create an account on Amazon. Majority of us, our credit card is in Amazon, so that we can just go through checkout and just pay with our existing credit card. That existing credit card in Amazon, they call it the payment method. So every customer in the B2B world also have their own financial management, which their financial management, which is their payment method, their financial transaction in that area. That is the integration with FI. So the account, customer account is the SD. Their financial account or financial management is FI. So that is an area where SD is integrated with FI. And all of these scenarios, all of this that we've just put out here is going to be one area that we're going to be touching one by one in the course of this training. That is the reason why I said we all have to be mentally ready. At some point in time, I'm going to repeat this. It's going to look overwhelming, but I'm going to try my possible best to break this down in a layman's language. And the best that you can also do is to please ask questions. Okay? So that is the component of SD integration with MM and FI so that we can have a clarity of this. So that as we go into the class, as we begin to digest this information, break this down, and each and every one of us can have a what? A clear understanding. Okay, organizational structure. So this just to give us a broad overview so that everything can start making sense and like, oh, this is what Brian had been talking about. So let's break this down. Organizational structure. Every company, every business, every B2B business, they all have their organizational structure. And we're going to be using these landmarks to be able to understand all these things. So that when we start breaking things down, we begin to do this. And when I start this training, as we go into different classes, this slide, we are going to be coming back and back, back and back, back and back to understand the slides because it's going to break things down to help us. So, in a just overview, this right now, don't think about it too deep. But from this slide is just for us to understand the organizational structure of what I've been talking about. We have a company, we have sales organizations, we have distribution channel, we have divisions, we have sales office, we have sales group, we have plants, we have shipping point, we have storage location, we have warehouse management. Every company, every company you see out there breaks this down. So now let's break this down with SD, FI, MM. Let's talk about it. SD, FI, MM. Let's break this down. In the word of SD, in the organizational structure, just for us to understand the organizational structure, the people that sells the product, which are the sales organization, belongs to the SD. A company can have one or more sales organization. Please, we need to understand that. A company can have more than one sales organization. And I'm going to be using an example. I'm going to be using a very, very good example and so that we can understand. And we're going to take one example of a company so that we can understand. So I'm trying to make sure I understand. Use one company that can a global company. This example, organizational unit. So let's take a company called HP that we'll be using as an example. HP is a global company. Everybody knows HP. HP, they do laptop, they do printer. Is there any person here? I'm sorry. Is there any person that does not know HP? Please, if you don't know HP, just indicate. And if you know HP, just say you know HP. I just want to make sure everybody know HP.
I know HP.
You know HP. Okay. Does everybody know HP?
I don't know HP.
Who
I
says
know
he
they
doesn't
do
know HP?
printers. I know they do photocopy machines and all the stuff.
Okay. Who says he doesn't know HP?
It's Bubemi.
You don't know HP. Okay. You don't know HP laptop. You've not used HP laptop before.
I'm joking.
Okay, you're joking. All right. Thank you very much for that. So let's use HP as a company. So this is the perfect one. So everybody is used to HP. So we're going to use HP as this organizational unit. Let's break HP business. Now we all know that Walmart is doing business with HP. So let's have it at the back of our mind. Walmart is doing business with HP. So let's break this down. This organizational unit is, we will break this business down. Then we will then see how this thing works in SAP. Because this same organization, remember in the business role, if we remember in the business role, we talk about what? As is. That is the second step. As is. All companies has as is as their business is operated. So every company has an organizational unit. Now, Every company that has an organizational unit that is using SAP, their organizational unit is set up in SAP. But before we look at how or where it is in SAP, let's first of all understand which is this number three, the fourth step in the business role, requirement gathering. And I said you cannot gather requirement if you don't understand the business. So let's talk about understanding the business hierarchy or organizational unit. Then we will then understand how it is in SAP. But this is how it is in SAP. But now you are seeing a visual diagram and we're going to break it down. So we are taking a company HP and let's say this is HP organizational unit. This is an example. Now, let's take it. HP is a global company. They are in several countries. So the company here, so this is what I'm going to do. So let's pause this. Good. All right, so let's break this down. So let's look at this.
The screen is blank.
We can see
The screen is what?
It's blank.
blank.
The screen is blank.
It's
Okay.
gray.
Okay, just hold on for me. That's the reason why I always
And
great.
SAP/ERP.
All right, great. So it's the same diagram. So the same diagram, what I just did, I copied it and I bring it here so that we can break some few things down. And once we understand this concept, I think majority of our work will be done today. Now, we were talking about HP. So the company is HP. Now, company code in SAP, every company is represented as a company code in SAP, which means, hold on, all right, so let's go back. So HP is a global company. HP is a global company. So HP is standing at the top. Now, company code in SAP represent every country that this company does business. Please, can someone mute himself? Company code in SAP represent every country that this business conduct, that the company conducts business. So when you hear the word company code in SAP, it means country. It means country. So now that's the reason why I picked a global company. One thing we all need to understand is this. SAP, you see that one SAP application that was bought can be used globally. So we need to begin to understand this. That's the reason why we are looking at the theory to break all of these things down before we start going to the SAP system so that we understand. Globally, SAP system can be used globally by a company that does business globally. Now, if a company like HP that does business globally buys SAP, it means that that one SAP is used for their business globally. So when you hear the word company code, it means the country. It represents the company. So let's say now HP is in Canada. This is going to stand for Canada. Let's say HP is in UK. This is going to stand for UK. Okay. Then let's say the middle one is US. So that it does business in US. So company code represent the country. So we need to understand that. Now, Let's now focus on US, which is where we are. This is where we are working. Now, the organizational structure in the US and how it works in SAP. In the US, HP can have several sales organizations. So in an interview, sometimes they might ask you, can a company have how many sales organizations can a company have? They might just want to throw you off, just to see if you are a newbie, if you are a starter. They can have several, more than one sales organization. And I'm going to tell you what it represents. Let's say in an area of HP in the US, we have East Coast. They might have HP East Coast. I just put that way. This might be HP West, and this might be maybe HP South. I'm just letting you guys just know the way it is. Now, let's take this example. Let's remove this. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of like giving you guys multiple example. US back. Now let's take another example that will make more sense to you guys. Sales organization, HP does a lot of business in America. They might have their what? This sales organization might be what? Technology. Might be that technology sales organization. This organization only deals with their technology. This might deal with their what? It might be that these ones deal with their what? Their product. This is organization deal with their product. Then this is organization, what other service they provide? Maybe they provide some kind of like consulting service. This is organization can be dealing with their what? Consulting. So I'm just making you guys understand the way business is run in the United States. And we are using an example of an HP, which is a global company. Now, not all companies that use SAP are global company. No. Some company they only exist in America and they use the SAP. If they exist in America, if a company exists in America, the structure of that company is just going to be like this. There's not going to be another company code. There's not going to be another sales organization. It's just going to be. Sometimes the company also might exist in just America, but if it exists in America, it might be like this. So the company might exist just in America, but they can also have what? Several sales organizations. So we've taken HP as a global company. Walmart, that is an American company, a typical Walmart structure will look like this. A company code, and they will have several sales organizations. Now, later, maybe if we have time, we will talk about the reason why companies might have several sales organizations, but we have document reading material that you guys are going to read. Maybe we'll clarify that. Okay, now let's go on the structure. So let's take this out. Let's now focus on HP back again. So let's talk about HP. Let's say we are focusing on this guy here. We are now focusing on this center guy in the SAP environment and in the business structure. Now, we don't want to care about their technology, all of that. It can be integrated, but let's now come straight. The company, US, one sales organization. Now, one sales organization, what are they selling? They are selling the HP product. What are these HP products? The HP product can be what? They have laptops. So let's name some of the product that HP sells. HP has what? Laptops. They manufacture laptops. They manufacture Printers. What else do they manufacture?
Copy
Uh,
machines.
photocopy machine. Just just to name a few. Photocopy machine. What else? What else? They
Photo cameras.
thank you. They have cameras. There's nothing that they don't manufacture as a product. So let's stop there. Let's say those are the things they manufacture. Now, from these things they manufacture, they need to be able to streamline these product categories in the SAP environment. And apart from SAP environment, they have a structure in the business world so that they can clarify this is the people that are selling our computer. This is the people that are, this is our things that will provide, will manufacture computer, printers, cameras. They need to be able to segregate those things so that everybody can have clear segregation of duty. So in SAP, all of these, all of these product, all of this product line, we call it product line, they are called divisions in the SAP. So we will now attach this division. We now say, okay, this division is laptop. Let's say this division is laptop, and this other division is printers. So you are now seeing that this sales organization that sell a product, part of the product that they are responsible for is what? Laptops and printers for this sales organization. Now, we also see this linkage. So I'm going to be removing some few things here so that we can have a clear understanding, so that everything can be clear. Now, when we now look at the sys distribution, we can see there's a line here, there's a connection here, a connection that connects this. So we've seen a connection that connects these two divisions, and we've attached our laptops and printer to this division. So we attach this one, two, two here. The distribution is part of the SD on how do we distribute this product to the customer. That is the reason why you will see HP or places like Walmart. Walmart is everywhere in America. They are in East Coast, West Coast. That is the way HP is. HP has their distribution channel in. They have their distribution channel in what they call it, Texas. They can have in uh, 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 Washington and all of that. But those they will not consider those as distribution. How does our product get to our customer? So on this distribution, they might say, okay, this distribution, they might call this and say, okay, this is going to be our, let's just put it, let's say this is going to be, let's just put one, they might call this, let's say this might be their retail distribution, and this might be their what? Wholesale distribution. So for wholesale business, this is how we distribute to them. For retail business, this is how we distribute to them. Now, once all of this is clear, this is organization, this is our organization, this is how a typical corporate America organization, this is how they work. So they now have distribution, how they distribute this product to these companies. Now, under it, they also have sales area. This section is optional for every business, but some company uses it. But the sales office now means that who is going to be selling what? Now, let's take out some few things here so that our screen can be clear. If we look at this, there is a square right here. Can someone tell me the three things that is inside that square? Can someone just tell me? I want it to be more engaging. Can someone tell me the three things that is in that
Sales
square?
organization,
Mhm.
distribution channel, and division.
Sales organization, distribution channel, and division, they are in that square. So it is what? Three combination. It is what? A three combination. The combination of a sales organization, distribution channel, and division, it's what we call in SAP, they call it what? Sales area. This combination of sales organization, distribution channel, and division is a sales area. That's why you see that combination in that square is linked to what? A sales office. So which means that there is a particular sales department in some organization that will be assigned to that combination. So okay, for HP America product line, wholesaler, and laptops, this is the sales office that is going to be responsible for that combination. They will now carve it out. So they will carve out the duty. Now, if we now look at the bottom here, this one now linked to different sales group, sales group. That is the reason why when you go to corporate America, they say customer service, everybody speaking phone, calling, blah, 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 blah. Within that sales office, they will now have sales group. They now have group of people that are chasing and taking care of different taxes. They will now develop different groups that take care of something. So in just this line item 2, let's say printer, which is printer. Within that sales office that attend to printer, they will now have a sales group. Maybe the sales group might be, let's say, this group will be attending to this kind of a printer, or this will service this area of these groups. Maybe an example, this area for Texas, this group are the one servicing Texas for this group. For Oklahoma, this is the group that is servicing this. For Georgia, this is the group. So it all depends on how a different organization is structured. But we need to just understand from that organizational unit how organizations are structured in the corporate America. And this structure that you are seeing, this is how this structure will be taken and will be put inside SAP. Now, when I mean put inside SAP, SAP will be configured. SAP will be set up. Let me use that word. SAP will be set up to behave like this organizational unit. So we need to begin to understand the terminology of SAP so that when we get into the SAP system, when I'm using all this terminology, you guys will have a clear understanding. Now, when we finish a set here, when we come to the left side, which is the what? We see a shipping point, we see a plant. If we look at this connection, there is a connection here. So let me take all of this out. From the US, from the company code level, in US, there is, you can see this line, which is a connection. Now, let's make the integration. When I explain this, then I will now make the integration more clear. There is a connection to the US, then there is what we call plant. In America, they call a warehouse. Well, where we come from, we call warehouse where the store goes. But in America, they call it plant. So in SAP, we call it plant. So we need to understand plant. So there are two plants here. These two plants represent that. In the US, for HP only has two plants, two plants where they ship all of their product out of. So they have plant 1, they have plant 2. So this plant 1, this can be in New York, and this can be in Texas. But this is where all their product is stored. Their manufacturing plant, that is where it is stored. So they can have their manufacturing plant in New York or in Texas. That manufacturing plant would definitely be connected to the US company code. You cannot connect a New York plant to a Canada company code. No. So the plant will be created as a US plant and will be connected to the US. Now, every plant, so take for example, they can decide to share whatever their plant is, but you will see every plant within a plant, which is a warehouse. I don't know how many of us has been in a plant, in a warehouse. A warehouse always have a what? A storage location. A storage location where all of these products are stored in a what they call it, we call it storage location. Some people call it bin, some people call it ark. But if you've been to Home Depot or Lowe's, it's a typical example. You will see the way they stack products. That is the way it is in a warehouse. So every plant has a storage location, and every storage location always have a mini warehouse. If you go to Lowe's, they will tell you this is paint section. If you go, this is furniture, all of those sections. So this is just for us to understand. Then the shipping point is a dock station. This is where once the package is the product is about to ship out of the warehouse, they will take it to the what we call it. Some people call it dock station, while some people call it shipping point. That is where the truck, the trailer will come and pick that product and take it out for delivery. So we call it the shipping point. So all of these things are the terminology in the business world, and these things is set up in the SAP system. So we need to understand that concept. Understanding an organizational unit, how business work. One thing we need to understand here, if it is a global company will exist in multiple countries. If it is a single business, the business will exist in its own country. When it exists in a country, the business will have a sales organization depending on the different type of business that they conduct in that country. Within a sales organization, there will be a sales area. The sales area is made up of a combination of the sales organization, the distribution channel, and the division. That is how the sales area on how the product gets to their customer or to their target. If it's a retail business, or if it is a wholesale business, or if it is a manufacturing business, whatever business's type is, their sales area is how the business is structured. As the product, whatever service the company offer, they have to keep it. If it's a physical goods, they have to keep it in a warehouse, which means the company will definitely has a what? A plant, a warehouse where the product is shipped from. Inside the warehouse, there are a lot of things that goes in the warehouse, and that is how it is. Now, with this structure that we've seen in the SAP world, this area in this level right here belongs to the FI, because this is where the financial transactions is recorded at the company level, at the company code level. This area from the sales organization all the way, this is the SD functionalities set up in SAP. All of this setup will belong to the SD. The company code and the company section belongs to the FI section. And this area that we see here, this area is a combination of both MM, IV, WM. So which means it's a combination of material management, inventory management, and warehouse management. And you can see the way all of them integrate with each other. So an SD cannot stand alone without MM and FI. So we need to understand this concept of organizational unit, because this is how this structure, this is how you see it in the world, in the SAP world. In the SAP environment, this is how the structure is done. So we need to understand and digest this concept. So it is very, very important we understand the organizational unit in SAP or in an ERP system. It is no different. Every ERP system will follow this structure. There might be some changes, a little, but they will always follow the structure. So we need to understand. And this is how business works on a typical corporate America. So we need to also understand this. So that's the reason we're talking about. We are going to be dealing with theory and we are going to be dealing with practicals. So now we begin to understand the terminology in the SAP word, in the SAP system. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to ask, does anyone has any questions? The sales record, they constantly, sorry, the transactional data, they constantly change, like sales record. Every single time a customer buys something, they buy different things. So those records, they change consistently. Delivery records, like when they deliver product, every single time in an area of Amazon, you understand, you have delivery information. Every goods you bought, you will have your shipping, your tracking number, the carrier that is sending to you, the day it's going to deliver. All of those information are delivery records information. So in an ERP world also, we have delivery record, how those products are delivered to those customers. And we're going to look at some of those things. And we're also going to look at what invoice records. So the invoice record, of course, how does this customer receive their billing, their invoices? How do they pay their invoices? When is the invoice due? In an area example of an Amazon, you don't really, your invoice record is your payment. Every single time you pay for their product, it is your invoice record that you can always go back to know, okay, how much did I pay for this product? How much did I pay for this product? So you can always see how much did I pay for shipping for this product. Those are financial invoice record. So all of this record also are in the ERP system, and we're going to look at this record. So we call them transactional record, and they change frequently. All right. Okay. So before I leave you guys for this week, this please everybody, I don't know if you can see this clearly, and I might be able to send it to everybody on the email as well. Please, if you can take a screenshot of this screen right now, please do. I just want to give everybody 5 minutes to take a screenshot of this screen.
Please, it's not so clear.
So what?
Make it larger.
Make it more bold. Make it more
You can do, you should be
small.
able to do, you should be able to do
No,
closed
if we
captioning.
take, I cannot even do it. Except you have to make it bold a little so that I work on.
Yeah, maybe
Yes.
if you
If you
zoom
take,
it.
if you take a screenshot, you can see the screenshot.
It's too tiny.
It's too
No problem.
tiny.
No problem. I'm going to send it to everybody on the email. I have your emails. I'm going to send it to you. So this is going to be your assignment for this week. So I'm going to send this. Please, can someone mute themselves?